Welcome to the Energetically You podcast. I'm your host, Megan Swan, the creator of the Sustainable Integrated Wellness Approach. I am a wellness and mindset coach that loves guiding women to reevaluate their relationship with certain everyday toxins that are in our environment, that we tend to consume, that we absorb sometimes unconsciously, and that affect our overall wellness and mindset. This podcast focuses on healthy habits, abundant mindset, and optimal wellness. It is designed to inspire ambitious women to level up, to find more energy in natural, sustainable ways that allow them to meet their peak performance and have really limitless energy to achieve all of their dreams and goals. Today, I had the honor of interviewing Bailey Guilloud. She is a healer, an intuitive coach, a sleep expert, and a hypnotherapist. She is driven by her mission in expanding consciousness within herself, her clients, and across the collective. I love that. I really like this interview. It is full of excellent knowledge on why you need to prioritize sleep from a perspective that maybe you haven't heard before, and a lot of great tips on how to get a better quality sleep. So let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to Energetically You. I am here today with Bailey, and I should have asked before I forgot to pronounce your last name, but you can introduce yourself in a moment. And I'm thrilled to talk to her all things sleep, healing, and hypnosis. Thank you for agreeing to be on the podcast, Bailey. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. My last name is Guilloud. It's French, and I'm so excited to talk with you about sleep. We had our little meeting last week in our mastermind about sleep, and I'm so excited to see where this conversation takes us today.
Sure. Well, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about your journey to get to be so passionate about the topic of sleep?
Yeah, of course. So sleep has been something that has been close to heart for me for, I would say, honestly, the past 12 years. When I was younger, when I was like a baby even, I was always one of those babies that would never sleep. My parents would tell me that I just like, no matter what happened, I was the worst sleeper ever. And as I got older, this kept on happening. When I was in elementary school, I would go to sleepovers and I would be the last one to fall asleep, the first one to wake up. And I would be that annoying kid at sleepovers that was like, crinkling too much paper on the side as my friends were like sleeping, being like, I wonder if they'll wake up this time, like making little noises. And as I'm older, I'm 28 now, about 2 years ago, I went into a phase of what I call insomniatic phase, where was the first time I really felt what true sleep deprivation felt like. And that was from, that looked like me getting 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night for 2 months. And I just experienced the lows of sleep deprivation, everything from extreme weight gain, to energy deficits, not being able to show up for work, not being able to be there for my friendships, my relationships that I had in life. And that experience of really feeling the depths of how bad sleep, not getting sleep can do to you, just turned into this passion to learn what it is that would make me sleep better. And I was against taking sleeping pills. So I went a very holistic route. And I'm so glad that I went that way, because now that I know like everything that sleeping pills do, super happy that I went that way. And that turned into me just learning the ultimate possibilities of sleep. You know, it's not just for more energy. It's not just for better health. It goes into your consciousness and taking control of your primitive emotions that lie in your subconscious, through just general sleep, but also through dreams. And yes, that's where I'm at now.
Wow. So I'm curious, is it like that you're just generally a light sleeper, or it's the getting to sleep, or a combination of things?
Yeah. So for me, it was always a combination of things. Like, it was really hard for me to fall asleep. I was one of those people that always had a lot of mind chatter at night. So when I'm definitely like a very highly ambitious person. So I think that comes along with having a lot of goals and having a lot on my plate too, you know, just in general, having a lot of things going on. Our minds chatter a lot. And so that would translate to me not sleeping, not being able to sleep. But then that also meant waking up in the middle of the night feeling anxious, waking up too early, you know, like 5 a.m., feeling anxious and not being able to fall asleep. And I say anxious, but it also is more than just mind. You know, I'm sure as a coach, you know that like your physical well-being is just as important as what is happening in your mental well-being. And so that's what happened to me. And it, like every sleep problem that you can think of, basically I've had it, except, you know, I've never experienced sleep apnea, but basically waking up in the middle of the night, waking up too early, being a light sleeper, all of the above.
Yeah, well, I can speak to sleep apnea because my husband had it. We've like resolved it through holistic solutions, but let's not talk about that at least yet. I wanted to touch on, because obviously as coaches, it's not our role to even influence whether our clients are taking prescription meds for whatever. But you did touch on, you know, what are some of the side effects, maybe short term, but also long term, like relying on medication for sleep?
Yeah, totally. Of course, we're not moving to influence, you know, how much, like whether our clients take prescription medicine at all. So I'll give you like a deep dive on what I think about sleeping pills, if that's okay. So I think that sleeping pills for some people are fine. You know, they sometimes help us when we are, like, probably when I was in that insomniatic phase, it probably would have helped me a little bit. If I was having that poor of sleep, I tried Benadryl, I tried a couple of things, but sometimes sleeping pills are the first thing that will help us when we're going through those really desperate times. However, there are so many side effects of sleeping pills. It's basically like it's basically thinking of it of like if you are to drink alcohol, or if you're to smoke weed. A lot of people smoke weed to fall asleep. Sleeping pills do some of the same thing. It's basically knocking you out and getting you to sleep, but not getting you good quality sleep, not getting you all of those things that all of the sleep cycles that are so important to waking up with more energy. And so there are some horrible side effects, which I can definitely go into, but basically it makes you more prone to diseases, to not get this REM sleep, which is what sleeping pills block you against. REM sleep is where we take control of our primitive emotions, where we have dreams, which we help understand our subconscious more, and just in general helping our repairing our cells of our body as well. So what that looks like is honestly a scary route. It can be everything from Alzheimer's to dying at a younger age. And there are so many holistic remedies to help you sleep more that I think sleeping pills are the last thing that you should be trying if you're not currently on them. And there are so many things that you can do to have great sleep without them that it's not worth going down that route.
Yeah. So what, where to drill down on there? I think there's a lot that you said, particularly about, can you talk about REM and rest and restore? And I'm sure that's a lot, it has a lot to do with memory as well, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a couple of different stages of sleep, right? It's non-REM and then REM sleep, non-REM 1 through 4, and then REM sleep. So non-REM 1 through 4 is basically like, that is where we have our lighter sleep. That is like basically where we take a more physical control. It's where we store our memories. And REM sleep is basically like where we find so much therapy for our mind, and where we have like that really deep restorative subconscious restoration. And REM sleep is the hardest to get, but also the most important. It's like if we're not getting REM sleep, if you're not getting REM sleep, they did a study where we're basically testing which stages of sleep are the most important. And when you're testing this in mice, right, you can go without non-REM for a little bit, but REM sleep without taking away REM sleep, that's the first thing that's going to kill the mice. So basically that tells us that this is the most important thing. It basically helps us recalibrate our emotional counteracts that we experience through the day. Whereas non-REM is basically like saving your memories. It's doing like the essential, but like not as important things that sleep gives you. And REM is like you're going into a deep emotional therapy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So REM is more for maintenance of your mental and emotional wellness, whereas the non-REM is more maybe of the physical rest and restore healing type memory thing.
Yeah.
So we talk about, I'm just curious because I can relate to sleep deprivation as a mother, but
yeah, I would love to hear your experience because I know that's like huge.
I actually, that's how I started out as a health coach. Is a friend of mine was training to be one and kind of like new guinea pig patients, if you will, clients rather. And I'm like, sure, what the heck? And she's your age at the time, didn't have children, and I'm like 10 years older than her with 2 kids under the age of 3. And she's like, okay, well, first you're just going to start getting up. You're going to put your alarm to get up 20 minutes earlier. And I'm in a point in my life where I feel like I'm just barely making it through my days because I'm so sleep deprived. I was probably getting 5 hours, but not a solid 5. And I'm like an 8-hour person.
You're an 8-hour gal. Yeah.
And so, and it's cumulative. That's one certain thing you can appreciate. Because at the time, being or breastfeeding, I'm not drinking. So then you start to appreciate like how much of hangovers are just like not having slept.
Absolutely.
So I was functioning. I was probably some weight gain, or like the fact that I wasn't losing the weight had something to do with that. But really it was just like all the things you need to be a good mother, like patience and, memory of details and just wasn't there. But I'm
your willpower.
Yes. The making the best choices. I've never had insomnia. I have one of my best friends has suffered from it, but I'm sure it's different in that there must be anxiety in the fact that you can't sleep. Whereas in my case of like sleep deprivation, it was just like the baby is not allowing me to sleep. I'm not like anxious that I can't and that I'm not sleeping. It's like all of my being just wants to have the freedom to sleep, but I didn't. So can you talk about there must be some sort of cycle with insomnia?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I think like you experience, like, I imagine as a mother, like, you experience this frustration, like, okay, like I need to have this rest, and you have something that is sort of like, it makes sense, you're like, oh, the baby like is keeping me up, and that makes sense, and I'll get past that, and that's okay. When you have insomnia and you realize that it's coming from yourself, it's like sometimes you don't have an answer for where it's coming from. You're like, why the heck am I waking up in the middle of the night? This is making me more anxious than if I were to able to just sleep through this. And so along with insomnia, I think there's a lot of really deep and dark thoughts that come up, at least in my case. Like, I would wake up and be like, for me, it was always just a bunch of mind chatter. This is my next goal. This is what's bothering me. This is what I have to do tomorrow. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't sleep because tomorrow is a massive day for me. And so it puts this pressure on whether you're able to sleep. And so a huge part of me helping my clients sleep is getting a better relationship with sleep in general, having a better relationship with how you view sleep. We all know that it's essential for our health, right? Like we've talked about that from the beginning. It's like, we know that it's great for emotional, we know that it's great for health, we know that it's great for this. And a lot of us know all of the like things that you're supposed to do, right? It's like, we know that we're supposed to turn the lights off. We know that we're supposed to have a wind down situation. We know that we're supposed to do all of this. And when you're doing that and still not sleeping well, sometimes that is because of your mind having too much chatter and needing more meditation, more hypnosis, or just generally practicing sleep, which is something I can go into a little bit in a minute. But it also could be something that's happening in your gut, or something that's happening in your minerals or your thyroid, or your hormones. Your hormones play a massive role in how well you're sleeping. In fact, your hormone cycle is what creates sleep. Melatonin is part of the hormone cycle. And that is what promotes sleep from the beginning. It doesn't tell you, melatonin, just a little offshoot here, melatonin doesn't produce sleep, but it does determine what time you are sleeping. And so that's part of your hormones being in balance, part of your having a regulated, balanced hormone. So it's not only like confusing of where is this coming from in my mind, but also, is this part of my body too? And I ended up doing like a lot of tests and a lot of like hypnotherapy and everything like that. I found out that it's not usually one or the other. It's usually both.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to go back to me working with my first health coach, which inspired me to be a health coach, ultimately getting myself up 20 minutes earlier, which actually meant less sleep, allowed me a 20-minute self-care routine first thing in the morning, which like dramatically improved my mental health in other ways. And then just, it like set off my day in a much more positive intention. And I made, you know, like I feel, and I teach it this way with my clients, like it's a cycle throughout your entire day. Like your choices throughout your entire day, not just the 30 minutes before you go to bed,
Absolutely.
affect your sleep cycle. And so, I mean, one thing that I talk about a lot is plant-based diet, just because, you know, your digestion and having digestive problems and also trying to get a restful night's sleep are totally counterproductive. Do you address that with your clients as well?
Yeah, as far as like the foods, are you talking about? Yeah, I can talk all about the foods.
I'm sure you talk to them about coffee, but are there some sort of maybe less intuitive foods that people should avoid or lean on to get better sleep?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, like coffee is a huge one, and something that let's just touch on coffee while we're on the subject. Coffee is like, we know that it has a huge impact on us, but a lot of us aren't aware of how long that we have an impact of coffee. The moment we drink coffee, it has a 6-hour half-life. So that means that if you're drinking like a cup of coffee in the late afternoon, you're still going to have half of that caffeine in you while you're trying to sleep. Even if you drink coffee in the morning, a lot of us metabolize it differently. So that coffee is really affecting you to the most ability. And so a lot of people have this like almost like a cultural obsession or identity with coffee that, you know, we're like, oh, we'll have an espresso after dinner, or like that's a very Italian thing to do. Or, you know, some of us have this identity of like, oh, I'm always tired. That was something that I experienced. Like, I'm always tired and I love coffee, so I'm drinking coffee all the time. And it was like something that I was like excited about. And to this day, I still love coffee, but I've learned to take a realistic perspective of where it is affecting me and how much I can actually experience without it really affecting my mental health, because it's affecting my sleep or affecting my digestion and everything like that. So before I go into food, do you have anything to note about, or like an anecdote about your experience with coffee?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of the things when I do detoxes with my groups, like that most people find more challenging. It's hard to say between coffee, sugar, and alcohol, but I think most people are surprised how big an effect coffee, because it seemed, like you say, it's like culturally very trendy. Like there's this, I mean, culturally worldwide with like, you know, cute coffee shops and like everything,
Yeah.
social situations being planned around going to a coffee place. But also many cultures, like here in Mexico, they drink coffee even at this hour, like in the early evening.
Right.
My husband has this narrative that it puts him to sleep. Mind you, he's a surgeon and like can like sleep standing up when he wants to. Like,
Yeah.
But obviously, it's not true that it puts him to sleep. But for me, it's just pretty much what you described. Although I have like a love-hate relationship, and I've noticed over time that what I really love about coffee is the smell of it being made.
Yeah.
Even like the first sip, I'm sometimes like, what am I drinking? Like, because I'm not a person, like I don't sweeten it. You know, I like espresso. But yeah, I used to have 3 or 4 espressos. Usually I keep it before 10 a.m., like thinking that it wasn't affecting later. But even that, like, it's just, I feel the acidity in my system, in my digestion. And so, yeah, it used to be a daily thing. Now I try and make it a couple times a week. And I feel like I'm better, but it's always hard when everyone else at dinner is ordering coffee with their dessert.
Yeah. something that's coming up for me now too, like I promise we'll get to food, but coffee is so fun for me to talk about too, is like, we sometimes we rely on this like energy from coffee, and part of, like you said, we experience this wave throughout the day. And part of the reason that coffee has such a huge impact on it is that we are basically having an external source for us to have energy. And so that messes with our ability to have this natural uptick in cortisol, which we can experience from just naturally waking up and experiencing the sun. So one of the first things I have my clients do is, I taught it in the mastermind, is like, the first thing that I want you guys to be doing, whoever's listening to this, is not going to your coffee machine, but instead taking 5 minutes to just greet the sun. Like either going outside and having a glass of water, or just stretching in front of your mirror, whatever you can do to wake your body up before you have coffee. It'll allow your body to get into that natural rhythm and have you relying on caffeine less, and start this rhythm throughout the day that is going to be more balanced, better for your body, all that jazz, So that's another effect of coffee.
Yeah, like water before coffee is huge and
absolutely
counterintuitive and difficult for a lot of people too. I mean, there's just this like, I'm not going to get into, let's not get into alcohol, but because it's a whole other conversation, but it's just this like very strong narrative in society that, it's the first thing you should do in the morning is caffeinate. But anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we lose a liter of water while we sleep. So really like a liter to a liter and a half in the first 60 minutes of waking up is essential for you to rehydrate. And coffee is a diuretic, which makes us dehydrated. Again, unbalancing everything. So drinking, I even like so my parents, when I was living with them during the pandemic for a little bit, and like I noticed that one of their habits was like not drinking. They just like go on an empty stomach to coffee. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. So I was like, okay, what can I do to encourage this? And so I started putting notes around the coffee machine, like drink water before coffee, drink water before coffee, having these like little micro reminders. Like those actually help. So if anyone's struggling with that, like definitely try that out. But anyways, let's talk food. So yeah, there's so many, there's a lot about food that I can talk about. The first thing that I would love to talk about is like your stress around food and your mental habits around food. We can get into the specifics of alcohol, sugar, all of the things that basically, are affecting your sleep. But one huge one is, what is your mentality around food? Are you stressed when you're eating? Because this changes how you're digesting food. This changes the anxiety within you and how you are throughout the day, but also like the physical digestion of the food. It matters how you are showing up to your meal. Are you watching TV while you're eating? Are you eating because you are feeling like guilt or body shame or anything like that? That is a huge impact that I think is often overlooked with sleep and with general well-being, is like, how are you making this a ritual and not something that's like scarfing down food? Just as well as the importance of the nutrient intake is how you're showing up to this. So a couple of things that I like to do is, before I eat my food, I'm always like blessing my food. I'm basically like, my mother was a super, she is a super religious person, and there's so much value into like blessing your food, even if you don't have this belief in religion or whatever it is. It's like there's so much value in just taking a moment to be grateful for the food in front of you, even if it's like 2 seconds, like noticing what's in front of you. Where did it come from? I am so grateful to be experiencing this. And like even putting your hands over it if you feel like, or putting your hands in prayer, that small moment of attention and intention changes how you're going to digest your food, which is crazy. It's like 2 seconds and it's actually sort of enjoyable. So that's like what I love to cover first on food.
I love that you said that. I think, yeah, it's definitely an underrated aspect of improving your digestion. Yeah, I love just sort of taking out, I'll be honest, I don't do it every single meal, but
yeah, we're not perfect.
In my higher self mode, I love to sort of imagine the journey of, everything we're consuming is energy of the sun. And so like, doing like the scientific graphic map back to how just appreciating the journey that all of the things on your plate took to get there. I think it's a really valued, aspect of how, whether you like, I also had, well, not so much my mom, but my grandparents, one side were particularly Catholic, and there was this needing to have prayer. And I, as a child, like had this resistance to that, but I've since realized that there's lots of ways to bless things or just, like be more mindful and take a moment. So I love that you said that.
It's all about intention, right? Like there's so much goodness that comes from Catholicism or religion and everything like that. And whether you choose to go that path exactly, there's definitely a lot to learn from all of those different things. So yeah, blessing it is a huge aspect of it. And then as far as like nutrients and food and everything like that. So sugar is a massive one. Sugar at night is sort of like a natural thing for a lot of us to want and everything like that. And so is alcohol, so is, things that cause a lot of inflammation. So that's like fried foods or anything that is for you causing inflammation, which for some people could be dairy, for some people could be gluten, not all of us. I'm definitely not a proponent in being like completely, paying attention to things that are working for you and not the masses. Definitely getting in tune to that. What causes inflammation for you? So what is sugar actually doing to you? It just basically like stimulates your appetite and cravings a little bit more. So that it encourages like more food after that. So it's basically like waking your stomach up in the middle of the night. That's why a lot of people wake up in the middle of the night, is they have these meals that end up turning their digestion like, I'm hungry again. So feed me. I have more inflammation. But those are the big things: coffee, sugar, alcohol. Besides that, there is no one specific diet that is best for sleep. So low protein is associated with shorter sleep and oversleeping. One study showed that like 20% of calories from protein produce the most favorable effect on a person's sleep. But, that is very bio-individual. So, if you do better with less protein or more protein, then pay attention to that. A high fiber diet is associated with better sleep and less sleepiness. So like plant-based, love that you're doing that. A low fat diet is associated with non-restorative sleep and more sleepiness. And then like a more ketogenic diet definitely has shown better sleep quality, more REM sleep, more slow wave sleep. But I want to stress again that I am very much a proponent of following your rhythm. Not everyone does well on a ketogenic diet. Not everyone does well with that amount that I'm saying, just certain things to notice, especially for women. Ketogenic diet is not always the best because we do need carbs. And if you are doing a ketogenic diet as a woman, it's important to, in my experience, in my studies, it's important to, if you are having ketogenic diet, to have carb refeeding days, to basically have more carb in certain days, and just test it out as it comes. Does that all make sense? What questions do you have?
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel it necessary to say, like, my personal opinion with ketogenic is just to be aware that it's not designed to be a lifestyle, like it's not designed to be something you do for a decade. So take it with a grain of salt and definitely experiment so you know what works for you. And I love that you said that about protein. Also wanted to know it doesn't need to be animal-based protein. Like, you can get protein from lots of sources, but I think it's good to know that having adequate protein definitely improves your sleep quality.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, everything that you said about what interferes, fried foods, I would put basically all, I would put all animal products in that category. I suggest to my clients that when you're eating those things that are harder to digest, like sugar, or processed, like alcohol, like heavy foods, dairy, if you are eating them, that should be something that's more in the middle of the day and not your last meal of the day, and certainly not right before bed, just so that your system has a little bit more of a window to process them and digest. Would you agree?
Well, so I'm someone who went from basically eating a lot of meat, being paleo, and now I live with my boyfriend, and I'm like what I would call like more pescatarian and closer to almost vegetarian. And there are studies that say like having animal protein in the form of salmon is really great for your sleep. But, it's really so individual. It's hard to make like a huge broad stroke on what works best for you. And like in all of these like recommendations that I'm giving you, like as far as like, high fiber diet, having more fat in your body, having adequate protein, what this is basically saying for everyone is to having a balanced diet, like having fiber, having the protein, having fat, balancing that out. And as far as like animal products, I think that it's so individual that I can't even really like say one way or another of like whether it's good or bad for your health. I think it's like, if you are eating animal products, then do experiments with it. Try one day eating it for lunch and try the next day eating it for dinner. In my experience, it's usually not a hard case scenario. It's more intuitively asking, when do I need the animal protein, or when do I need to have more carbs? And this goes along with like this balancing your diet. It's like asking intuitively, if you can sit for a moment and sit in silence without the noise of diet culture, any sort of culture, like asking your body, like, am I hungry for carbs? Am I hungry for animal protein? Am I hungry for whatever it is? But it's good to hear that your experience with animal protein was like, it's better for you to digest at night. But I think it's something that we all need to play around with because it's so bio-individual.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was speaking more of like the sugar. I mean, I don't drink, but if you're going to have the things that are really going to interfere with your ability to sleep well, or even fall asleep, that should be sort of midday.
Yeah, day drinking is the best thing for your sleep. So we should all be day drinking. Like I'm a big fan of day drinking instead of night drinking. But yeah, I agree with that. Like anything that is causing inflammation for you specifically is better to have earlier in the day. Definitely agree on that.
Yeah, and I also wanted to highlight your point with women and carbs. I don't know if you could speak on a little bit more depth. I was surprised to learn, I don't know, in the last year, how women are more dependent on carbs to produce serotonin, and therefore at higher risk for pretty much all mood disorders, but particularly depression, when we're really restricting carbs, which is a pretty common thing for women to be doing, I'd say.
Yeah. And, it's so funny because like there's this push for ketogenic diet, right? There's this push for like, okay, you're going to lose weight if you are on the ketogenic diet, blah, blah, blah. But like women are the first ones to try a lot of the new diets. They'll try a lot of the things, but women are more needing carbs than men. So it's like, especially as women, we need to be aware of that. But yeah, it's like carbs, they basically support like all of your systems, like your thyroid function, your hormone functions. Like they're great for recovery and intense training. And like they help us tell the body that our hormones are balanced, our thyroid's balanced. So you can tell the body that it's fed. It's like, okay, have some sweet potato or rice or whatever you like to have as carbs. And your body's like, okay, I'm fed. So now I can stop thinking about food. So yeah, definitely don't be afraid of carbs.
Yeah, I like how you said that. So what, I don't know, parting wisdom do you want to leave us with? Anything that you feel like we didn't cover that's kind of key to optimal sleep?
Yeah. Wisdom of the day. So, one of my, like, honestly, the best tip that I have for sleep, I'm giving it away for free right now, so I hope you're paying attention. The best thing that you can do for sleep is getting present with your physical setting when you're going to sleep. So especially if you feel this mind chatter, especially if you have a lot going on, or if you're like, I need to do a meditation before bed, or I need to wind down before bed, the best thing that you can do is get really connected to your physical setting so that you can allow your body to relax. You can't force sleep, but you can sort of have sovereign control over whether you're paying attention to the relaxation that's happening in your physical setting. So that looks like being like sort of in love with your pillow, or in love with how comfortable you feel, or just in love with how nice it feels to have quiet and how silent it is during the night. And so that like hopefully alleviates some of the stress of like, what am I doing tomorrow? You have control over what you're paying attention to, and it reduces that stress and gets you in the rhythm of going to sleep. You can't force sleep, but you can sort of control relaxation, and that's what this is doing.
I love that. Yeah, I particularly, there's something about sliding my feet between crisp sheets and like the just,
Ooh,
and then as a mother, the silence is always golden. So.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom with us. I really appreciate you being here. And where can people find you? Where are you most present on social media?
Yes. So you can find me at Bailey Guilloud, BaileyGuilloud. And I've just launched a course on sleep. So if you want to dive deeper into this topic, it's in my bio right now, but it will always be on my website if you're listening to this at a later time. And you can sign up for my newsletter. That's the best way to reach me.
Cool. Do you want to tell us quickly a little bit about your course?
Yeah, sure. So my course is basically everything that it'll teach you, all of the confusing aspects of sleep, why we sleep, understanding your sleep, understanding why we have different reactions to things like coffee and alcohol. It also goes into how to embrace those lifestyle changes and how to, how to deal if you are having a night of alcohol, or if you are having a night of where you're drinking or you're having a lot of sugar or inflammation, things that you can basically biohack. You can put a Band-Aid on these things. It also goes into like your sleep environment, how to transform your bedroom into sleeping better. And then last, it goes into how to use your dreams to really work your subconscious to prepare you for the next day, to get that subconscious understanding of what's happening in your dreams and start lucid dreaming.
Wow, it sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to Energetically You. I hope that this episode has helped you to tune into your natural energy sources so that you feel more energized and focused throughout your day. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a second to rate and review. Each review helps us to help more ambitious women just like you accomplish their goals. Don't forget to take a screenshot, share it on social or in your Instagram stories, and tag me at Megan Swan Wellness. See you soon.